One is agriculture, the price of food for the people that is causing hunger in the land. I looked at statistics to find out why we're in this predicament. Everybody talks about the cost of the bag of rice, the cost of bag of gari, and so on. But the poor man on the street does not buy it by the bag. They buy it by what you call mudu, right? It's a little cup. Let's take beans for instance. In 2012, a price for a cup of beans was 80 naira. In 2013, it was 80 naira. In 2014, it was 100 naira. In 2015, 200 naira. In 2016, 500 naira. Now let's take another item, gari for instance. In 2012, it was 80 naira. 2013, it jumped to 100 naira. In 2014, 150 naira. In 2015, 200. In 2016, 350 naira. Now remember, minimum wage has stayed static while the price of the food items has gone up astronomically. It was pretty okay for 2012, 2013. It started rising in 2014 and went up astronomically between 2015 and 2016. And always remember, minimum wage has not risen during this period. For those who have minimum wage, a lot of people in the villages earn less than minimum wage. Then I started checking for the price of, I give two examples, beans and gari. Beans and gari went up by 50% between 2015 and 2016. But the price of this cup by the consumer went up by 150%. 150%. The price of gari went up by 50%, but the cup in which it is being sold went up by 70%. So I said, what is, for the farmers here, what is responsible for this increase? Cost of transportation from Oyo State to Lagos or to Abuja is by truck, and they use diesel. For this period, diesel has already been deregulated. There was a steady price in diesel cost, and yet the difference is usually the cost of transportation. The farmers did not make the money. So I started asking, do we have a transport policy in Nigeria? Do we have one? Do we regulate how much a transporter charges from Oyo State to Abuja, from Kano to Lagos? If we don't, then practically the problem we have is not that the farmers are making more money, because for a poor man, the exchange rate has nothing to do with what he eats. He eats local food produced locally in Nigeria. So the dollar rate is irrelevant for a local farmer. Yet a consumer who earns 18,000 naira is suffering because of the astronomical cost of farm products which he can no longer afford. The local farmer, apart from, the local consumer, apart from fertilizer, consumes everything grown in Nigeria. What is the problem? We're talking about solutions. First of all, the Ministry of Transport should engage transporters and find out what is the fair rate to charge for goods and services being transported within Nigeria. This is very, very important, because the increase in price of these products is attributed to the transporters, not the farmers, paid for by the consumers. Secondly, if you look at transport interstate across Nigeria, it has gone up between 50 and 100%. Price of diesel has gone up 40%. Price of PMS petrol gone up 50%. In the cities, prices of domestic transportation has gone up almost 100%. Please understand, we're talking about solutions to problem. A man who has a job in the central area, because he's poor, lives further away. he has further to get to the city. Whether you are in Lagos, you are in Kano, you are in Kaduna, you are in Yenegua, it doesn't matter where you are. If you're poor, you live further away. So you and your transport cost is the first line charge. You pay for your transport cost before you get to work. If you cannot pay for the transport cost and your income is 18 or 20,000 naira a month, you cannot get to work. Remember, we are here to deal with solutions to problems. Solution number one, the Minister of Agriculture should deal with the transport cost for farm products. Either we go by train and it's subsidized, or we go by trucks with diesel, but we agree on a price so they do not gouge the farmers. 2, transport in the city. We need an urban mass transit policy. Across the world, transport in the city is subsidized by government. Transport in the city is not a profitable business. No transporter in Lagos, Abuja, Kano, Yenegua, anywhere in the country is making money. That is why you have rickety old buses, unsafe for consumers. So we need a mass transit policy. If you had a mass transit policy and you reduce transport costs by 50%, you reduce cost of transporting goods from the farm by say 50%, without increasing minimum wage, you have given more money to poor people to spend, and you can reinflate the economy, because all of a sudden you've given them a stimulus. Thank you. You've given them a stimulus without increasing revenue and not at a great cost to the government. These are practical approaches we can take to solve the problem economically. Traveling across the country, price has to come down. Traveling within the city, price has to come down. Goods and services from the farm to the city, price has to come down. So the Minister of Agriculture and the Minister of Transport should participate in this process, and this can be done immediately without a great cost to the country. All the issues have been raised. One issue that is very important that nobody talks about, and I support President Buhari in his quest to catch the bad guys and to stop crime and corruption in Nigeria. I agree wholeheartedly with what he's doing, but I disagree with the approach. People talk about foreign investors, but the problem is not even foreign investors. Let's look at domestic investors. If you look at Nigeria today, nobody's buying land, nobody's buying houses. Rent actually is coming down because nobody can pay for rent anymore. The economy has shut down. Now, what is the reason? The reason this is happening is, for one word, fear. Everybody is afraid. You cannot run a 21st century economy where everybody is terrified. Everybody is afraid of being arrested. Everybody is afraid of being investigated. Everybody is afraid that something terrible will happen to them. And as long as you have fear in the system, you will not invest your money in that economy. And this is a very serious issue. I bet you 70% of our problems, because you have the upper class, less than 1% of Nigeria controls over 90% of the economy. And that is a fact of life. Then you have the masses who are hungry. I've dealt with the issue of the masses. Now let us deal with the upper class. In these chambers here today, a lot of people here are being investigated. A lot of people here are being arrested. A lot of people here are being docked. So across the country, if you are afraid and you are rich, the chances are you will not spend your money. You'll be terrified to spend your money. Now, this is not a problem the Minister of Finance can solve. This is not a problem the CBN governor can solve. This is not a problem any minister can solve. This is a problem only President Buhari can solve. If people are afraid, they will not invest. Fear cannot be a policy to grow an economy. He means well, we like him, but the policy must change. And let me tell you something. You see, it's the 500 naira note. Money, in layman terms, is a coward. You see, this currency is a coward. This currency only goes to places where there is peace and tranquility. This money will go to Geneva, it will go to Johannesburg, it will go to Accra, it will go to London, it will go to Paris. But this currency is running away from Nigeria. This currency is running away because everybody is being frightened. I have a friend with the largest development in Nigeria. He has not sold one piece of land in 1 year and 3 months. Think about what I just said. He has not sold one piece of land in 1 year and 3 months. The largest real estate development in all of Africa. Because people are afraid. Somebody told me a story the other day. They put 50 million in his account. 50 million. After they put 50 million in his account, EFCC came and picked him up. Where did he get the 50 million from? A legitimate transaction. Now the problem is, if people have been so terrified that nobody wants to buy a house, nobody wants to rent a house, nobody wants to buy a piece of land, people in these chambers are being arrested, people in the other chambers are being arrested, governors are being arrested, politicians are being arrested, businessmen are being arrested, everybody's being investigated. What is happening is the fear factor is scaring our currency out of the country. So my solution is simple. We cannot be afraid to be Nigerians. We cannot be afraid to live in our country. We support. I worked with President Obasanjo in 1999. And trust me, as soon as President Obasanjo took power, he went after the bad guys and he got the money back. But I bet you nobody in this room, unless maybe Senator Saraki, who worked with him at the time, understood how he did it. But he got the money back into the economy. And nobody knew about it. Nobody was frightened. Nobody was terrified. Everybody went along their business. The only high-profile case we had was when he went to Abacha. He went after the bad guys, but nobody knew about it. We support President Buhari's policy. I'm only asking him directly. Let us have a change of approach. Let us not frighten us to the point where we do not want to invest in our own country. If we cannot invest in our own country, foreigners will not invest in our own country, on one hand. And secondly, if the Minister of Agriculture and the Minister of Transport could focus on goods and services being transported for the poor and reduce the price, we will have a greater country and we'll get out of recession. Thank you very much.